is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path, and this is your Must Know Monday for Monday, March the 19th. In last week's Must Know Monday video, I showed you how to knot beads using the new Easy Knotter tool. This week, I want to show you how to make a project with knots in between your beads where you'll have no specific tools except for your hands. The only other thing that you might possibly need is a big eye needle, and I will show you that because it will just make your life easier. Now for this project today, you can use any kind of bead you want, kind of like last week. Any bead you want. I'm going to tell you specifically what I will be using, but you can use anything. I'm going to be using 2 strands and 2 different colors of my silk cord. Okay, so I'm going to be using my number 8 cord, and in this specific example I'm going to be using black and blue. I like to use 2 different colors for this this specific design because it allows you to be able to see the colors in between your beads, and it's really pretty using the 2 colors. So I'm using number 8s for those, and just like last week, you'll want to go ahead and pre-stretch that. So whether you put your beads on and hang it from a door handle and let it sit overnight, or you take that damp cloth and kind of go over it, you'll definitely want to pre-stretch your cords. I'm going to be using an 8mm bead. The one specifically I'm going to use today is called an orbit bead, and for this design I'm going to be using a whole strand, a 16-inch strand, plus part of another one. So I'm probably going to be using about 80 some odd beads. I'm also going to be using a 7 by 9mm rondelle bead. Again, you can use whatever you want. And then the only other thing really that I'm going to use as far as beads is I'm going to be using a gemstone oval. So today for this specific sample, I'm going to show you a 30 by 40 labradorite oval, but you can use a teardrop shape, you can use a round shape, whatever you want. We also are going to use this really fun new tassel that we got in here at the store. They're really fun because they are bigger and thicker, but they are a little bit temperamental, so I wanted to wait and open the package and actually show you how to use these so you could actually see me doing that. So like I said, the only other thing you may need is your big eye needle, and besides that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my tassel. So these tassels actually come like in a bag, but they also have another clear plastic protector over them. Some of the tassels have the tassel cord actually coming out of the top, and some are like this where they just have them to the side. So when you actually pull your packaging off, you see that it has a large loop. Now, the great thing about this loop is it is adjustable, and that's what we want to do. The hardest part is finding the little adjuster because you kind of have to flip it upside down and then feel for the little knot that's up inside of here. So it may take me just a second, but I'm going to find it and then show it to you because it's black, so the black one, it's a little bit hard to see. Some of the other colors, it's really easy to see. So let me find this little piece and I'm going to show it to you. So it's a little bit hard to see on this black one, but right here, and I'm going to pull it here, right here is my tassel holder. So I'm actually going to, and like I said, in the other colors, it's a little bit easier to see because it is a black cord. So that is a little bit easier to see, but we are looking at black on black. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out just like this and leave myself just a little bit of a loop. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and this is where you're going to test to make sure that you're going to be able to get both your cords through all your beads. So I'm going to thread it through one of my 8mm orbit beads and then through my gemstone. Sometimes both cords will not go through your gemstone, and it's just because sometimes they have a little bit of a different cut inside of them. So sometimes you might have to put one piece in at a time and just kind of test to get this needle in. Now, I will tell you, the labradorite for me has been the hardest one to get through. You might be able to get both of your cords in it, but getting all 4 cords back up is a problem. Let me pull it down here. I did this brown sample, and I was able to get both cords in and back up through the bead without any problem. But like this one, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do that. But I'm going to use my black cords. I'm going to pull this blue one out, or I'm going to, okay, start over. Lord help me. Okay, now you see. So I'm going to thread my 8mm orbit. Then I'm going to thread the labradorite, and again, you may have to wiggle it through to get it in there. And then I'm going to put in my tassel. Now, I want to go ahead and get the ends even on my cord. So I'm going to put my ends together, and I'm just going to pull this until it's pretty well centered. Okay. And I'm going to come back up through this gemstone again. And again, you may have to wiggle and push and all that good jazz, but go ahead and mess with it till you get it up through there. And if you have to, you may have to get your flat nose pliers to help kind of push its way up through the hole. So let me go ahead and do that so I can get it in. I was able to push it through just enough to where I can use a pair of flat nose pliers to grab a hold and pull this needle and then pull the cord through. So when you pull it through, we want to try and even the cord out. And I'm going to pull it all the way down, just like this. Now, once you get it like that, we need to find our center cords here again, and then I'm going to pull those cords until they meet my bead. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Now, I'm going to take my cutters, and you can see there's a knot here on the very end of it, and I'm going to cut this knot. And then once I get it cut, I'm going to take both of these cords and I'm going to tie them together. So let me grab a hold of it here. Okay, I'm going to tie these together. Okay, and you want to be careful to try not to get any of your thinner pieces of cord caught in here. But I've got it tied, and now I'm just going to take and trim those cords. They don't have to be super close, but you can go ahead and trim them, because what happens is it gets hid back inside the tassel again. So that now you are ready to start working. And I'm going to go ahead, since I've got it here, and I'm going to take my needle and go through my orbit bead so that I can pull everything down. And this will be the center of my necklace. So I want to see how close I am here. And it's just, I'm about 6 inches off. So I'm just going to leave that, because that doesn't bother me, because I know I'm going to have enough cord. So now, you couldn't get both pieces in. So we're going to have to add our blue cord in now. And with the blue cord, I am going to make sure that it is even. And I'm going to grab a hold of the black with the blue, and then I'm going to take the cords and tie them together, just like this, and make sure to pull it down tight so that everything is right there. So I actually made a mistake, and I'm kind of glad I did, because in case you make a mistake or make this mistake, I want to show you how to fix it. So the one thing that I forgot to tell you was that ideally, you want one needle on one side of your piece, and you want one needle on the other side of your piece. So the way that I tied these two together, both of my needles on my silk cord are on one side. So you may want to have your tulip all around, or an awl, to be able to kind of get back in here and loosen up these knots, because if you don't, it's kind of hard to get those little knots out without something to that nature. Okay, so I have my cords, and now I'm going to pay attention to where my needle's at. Okay, so the black thread is going to be on the left side. the needle will be on the left. Okay, so I need to make sure when I get my cords together that my needle on the blue will be to the right. Okay, so I'm going to find my center again, and I'm just going to make sure that my needle will be to the right. So let me get my cords together. Okay, so now I'm going to take my 2 threads here together and I'm going to tie them just like this and pull it down so that now on the right hand side I have the end of my black thread and the start of my blue thread, and on the left side I have the end of my blue thread and the needle on the black thread. Now it does not matter which one you have, just make sure you have them something similar to that. So this is where I said your big eye needle would come in handy. So if you've never used a big eye needle, this is what it is. It is a needle that has a hole all the way in the center, and you can see mine's been used several times, so they do last for a little while. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work one side at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread the end of my black cord onto my big eye needle. Now I want to try to leave as little bit on the side as I can, so that way it's not a lot of excess trying to pull through the bead. Now, if it frays like that, you can go in a little bit further, but it's really what you get used to. So I'm going to thread on an orbit bead with the big eye needle, and then I'm going to thread my blue thread through here as well. I like to do it this way just because of the pure fact that if you've done this way, then you can make sure that both threads will go through easily. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 threads. I've pulled my bead all the way down. I'm going to take the 2 threads and go through and pull. If you don't feel like this is going to be a big enough knot for your hole in your bead, I'll show you what to do for the next one here. Whatever you do, just make sure it's consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread on my bead. And you can use as many different beads as you want and as many counts as you want. It's completely up to you, but I just find that I like this one. Okay, so now I've got my bead. This time what I'm going to do, if you don't feel like that knot's going to be big enough, once you go through one time, then go through a second time with your loop and pull like this. And this gives you a much larger loop if you do it, or not if you do it this way. But I do want to show you one thing that I would recommend if you do it this way with the double loops. If you noticed on the previous knot that I did, this one here, I used the blue cord to loop through twice. So on this side, I'm actually going to use the black cord to loop through twice. So I'm going to go through once and twice and pull this nice and tight. And you'll see what happens when you do that is on the first knot that I did, you see more blue. On the second knot, you will actually see more of the black come through rather than the blue. And I like to kind of alternate them like that just because it gives it a really fun look on your necklace. So I'm going to show you this one more time here. So I'm just going to thread on a bead and I'm going to pull this through, and then I'm going to thread on another bead or another cord here. I'm going to pull this through, and if you want to do your single knots, that's fine. If you want to do the double knots where they're more seen here, then just remember to alternate your cord. So I'm going to use my blue cord and I'm going to loop through twice so that when I pull, this is what it will look like. So now I have, not counting the center one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do 8 total, and then I'm going to switch it up and do one different bead. So let me get to that point. So now, not counting the center one, I have my 8 beads, and I'm going to switch out now and use one different type of bead. So I'm going to thread it on exactly like I've done all the other ones. There's really nothing different that I'm going to do. I'm just going to be switching up the one bead. And you will see as you start to knot this and you get it pulled through, sometimes these beads lay a little wonky, and that is fine because once you wear it and the length pulls on it, it will all pull completely straight for you. So, you know, I'm switching up my bead here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do my double loop and do my knot. Now, I'm going to go ahead and work some more on this side, and then I'll come back and show you how to get started on the other side. So I have all of one side complete, and what I've done to finish it off so far is I have knotted 2, 4, 6, 7 of them, and my 8th bead is just on here. Now you don't have to worry about that bead falling off because it is kind of a tight fit in there. So I'm just going to leave this here and put it to the side, and then I'm gonna start on this side. So again, this time my big eye needle will be on the blue and my needle is on the black, and then at that point we're pretty much gonna start out the same way. I'm gonna thread on the blue and then thread through the black, and you'll want to pull this down, and then you're ready to start your knots again. So it's just as simple. If you're going to do the double knots, go ahead and do those. If you're going to do the singles, just make sure you get those. So whichever knot you're going to do, you're just going to continue to do the same amount on this side as that you did on this side. So at this point, I have the same amount of beads along my piece. Whoops. Okay, so on these last 2 beads here that I put on, you can see I've not done any sort of knot on the ends of these, and that is for a purpose. So on each end, I'm going to find the end that has the needle to it. Okay, so this end here will have the blue, and this end should have the black one. And then I'm going to take one of my rondelle beads, and I'm going to cross the wires or needles, whatever you want to call it, opposite ways through that bead, and I'm going to pull these threads tight like this. Okay, so just pull each thread nice and tight, and then take one set of cords and tie this tight. Pull your cord really tight, and then we're going to take this set over here and tie the blue set. Once, twice, whatever you want to do, but we're going to put knots there as well. Okay, now I'm going to put one more knot on each side just to be safe. And then what I'm going to do is, before I do anything else, I'm going to use some Zap gel glue. You can also use E6000, whatever glue you have, but you want to make sure that you put glue on this knot. On the first necklace that I made like this, I did not use glue on the knot. I just trimmed these because I thought, oh, surely the knot will hold it. No, it came right apart. So make sure that you put glue on these knots so that once it's dry and you trim your threads, it will look like any other knot along the edge of your piece. So I'm going to let this dry for a minute and then I'll trim these threads and be back
here
with you.
is the finished sample of what I showed you in the video today. This is the labradorite with the black tassel, and then you can see how the ends is finished off. It's kind of like an infinity type thing where you can't really tell where you started and ended. Now you can use your cord ends like I showed you last week, but to me this is just the easiest way to do this one. So I will have the kits for this one, and then I've got a beautiful purple crazy lace agate that pulls some beautiful purple colors with the purple tassel, and then this kind of rainbow solid color bead to go with it. And then I've also got the brown that I showed you earlier. I think I showed you this one earlier. This one has a beautiful neutral color, so you really could wear it with a lot of stuff. And all three are the same size.
I hope you enjoyed learning this alternative way of knotting your beads with the silk cord. So I will have kits available for all three of the colors that I've shown you today on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Now the kits will not come with a step-by-step written pattern because I feel like this is pretty straightforward, so just be aware of that. Also, we do have the silk cord available on our website, as well as the easy knotter tool that I showed you last week. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.